For today, we take The Merchant of Venice, where the first thing that is told to us is mercy and justice. These are the two terms which you see in the preceding dialogues also. The scenes also will have this conversation based on these two things to think upon. Mercy, which means that it is kind of forgiving treatment to someone by someone who has the power to punish or harm. That means a person who knows that he or she has the power to punish a person or to harm the person. Yet, if he possesses kindness, if that person is forgiving, that is the sign of being merciful. So then they have defined the term justice also. Justice means it's the quality of being fair. That means how law abiding you are, how correct you are in your attitude towards following the right path. That is called justice. And in the previous class, with a poor connection, I had told you also that through an example, I tried to tell you the two concepts of mercy and justice. Like supposing student A whose pen is stolen by student B. So, me being a teacher would stand for justice and I would punish student B for being dishonest and for being, you know, false in his behavior. But supposing student B apologized student A that I'm sorry I did this because I was short of money and what I did I realized that I have made a mistake and I would like to return it back to you. So what I did was justice that I said okay, since you have done this, you have taken away his pen, so I stood for justice. I said I should punish you. But then it is in the hands of student A whether he should, in spite of knowing that the student B could be punished, if he opts for mercy, if he opts for kindness, if he is ready to forgive, he would not take the matter to me and I would not be deciding it. So, this is what basically mercy and justice are. Now, then, based on this, they have asked you these two questions, out of which the first one I have told you, give an example to show the difference. The second one is they say, which one do you value more and why? Now, here comes the thought provocation that which one out of the two, the mercy or justice, which one do you think is more valuable to you? So, me, I wanted the answers from you. If you all want, any one of you can open the mic and at least give me some views on it. Anyone? Are you able to hear me? Okay. So that means nobody wants to answer. No problem. Good for you. Good for me too. The class will end soon. So I value kindness, that is mercy, more. Though I know both are equally important. Just as mercy is important, so is justice. So, me being one of you, I would definitely say that I would go for mercy, but then I would at the same time would say that yes, both attributes are equal. To stand for justice and to give justice is also very, very as the quality of mercy. That means one should be forgiving actions. I know at times it is very difficult to forgive certain things, but then this is what your kindness and what your humility will should do. Okay, so these are the questions, and we have answered them. Now read this excerpt of the play that exemplifies mercy and justice. Now the characters here are Shylock, who's a money lender, Antonio, a merchant, Nerrisa, Portia's friend, Portia, fiancée of Bassanio, Antonio's friend, Duke, Duke of Venice, clerk, clerk in Duke's court. So, kind Antonio is gladly loved by all his fellow citizens. So there's a person called Antonio who's loved by all the citizens of the place where he's living. Okay, it's a lovable quality about him. He's kind, he's giving, and so people, his friend Bassanio goes to him and asks Antonio to lend him some money. So now he has a friend, Antonio has a friend called Bassanio who wants some money, and so he goes to Antonio and says to ask him to lend him some money. So two characters we know, Antonio and his friend Bassanio. Okay, Bassanio needs the money to marry the beautiful Portia of Belmont. Now, why this Bassanio needs the money for? He wants to marry a beautiful young girl called Portia who lives there, Belmont, a place called Belmont. She lives there. Now, since Antonio's money has been spent on a fleet of ships with rich cargoes to trade across the world, he has to take Bassanio to Shylock, a cruel and devious moneylender. So the story goes something like this. Antonio is the man, his friend is Bassanio. Bassanio wanted some money because he wanted to marry a girl called Portia of Belmont, she was. And Antonio was a rich person, but he had spent all his money on fleet of ships. He was into trading, and his ships were still sailing. So all his money was stuck. So, and his friend needed the money. So what Antonio did was he took Bassanio to a person called Shylock, who was a money lender. Okay. Now here is the scene one, which opens in a city called city of Venice. It's in a public place. Can you see scene one? Venice, a public place. That means a crowded market. Okay. Now, if now what we are reading is just a small little extract from a lovely novel by Shakespeare, William Shakespeare, known as uh, The Merchant of Venice. So we are just reading extract from it. We begin. The first dialogue is of Shylock. 3,000 ducats. Well, now ducats is a currency in Venice at that time. So he says, "Oh, you need 3,000 ducats." Well, now Bassanio, "Hey, sir, for 3 months, for, for the which, as I told you, Antonio shall be bound." So now Bassanio says, in addition, his friend, he says, "Yes, sir, and it will be for 3 months only, after which my friend Antonio would return it to you, and he will be bound to give it to you within that time." Okay, now Shylock, 3,000 ducats for 3 months. Just a second, let me open this for you. 3,000 ducats for 3 months, and Antonio bound. Now he's repeating Sherlock in a state of, surprise. He says, "Oh, so Antonio will be bound to me. He would be under me for 3 months, and because he needs 3,000 ducats. Antonio is a good man. I will be assured." So now he confirms it. Yeah, I know Antonio is a good man, and I'm sure he will be giving it back to me, and that he is sufficient. Yet his means are in suppositions, suppositions. So now he says, "Yeah, I know he's a good man. He will be, uh, assuring enough that he will return, and he has sufficient amount of money. All this I'm sure of, and it is not difficult for me to lend him that money." But then all his means, that means all the money which he has just now put up in a very critical situation. That means his ships are still sailing. So whatever money he has is on those ships. on this trading, on this trade and commerce which he has done. And it is still in a supposing situation. That means a very uncertain situation. He hath a ship traveling to Tripolis. So now he says, why is his riches are uncertain? Because his ships where he has traded are still sailing and they are traveling to Tripolis, which is the name of a place. Okay. They have told you also Tripolis, the capital city and the largest city of present day Libya. Okay, so they were still sailing. Another to the Indies. Now he has the other ship sailing to Indies. Underline these two places. One is Tripolis, the other is Indies. I understand, moreover, upon the Rialto. Now he says Rialto, again, a central part of Venice, that is in Italy. So I understand, moreover, upon the Rialto, he hath a third at Mexico, a fourth for England, and other ventures he hath squandered abroad. So now he's telling, I am very well aware about the various ships to various destinations. But yet, in spite of in spite of on their way to Tripolis, to Mexico, to Rialto, to England, all these ships are still venturing in the sea. That means they have still not touched. They are still, whatever money is still in water, has not reached abroad. They have not reached to the shores. But ships are but boats, sailors but men. There be land rats and water rats, water thieves and land thieves. I mean pirates. And then there is the peril of waters, winds, and rocks. So now Shylock tells his dilemma. He says, I know Antonio is good. I know he's sufficient. I know he could be trusted. I know he has his money on these various ships. But what is hustling me more, what is troubling me more is that all these ships are still sailing and the sailors are just men. The boat is, the ships is just a woodwork. So what if there are thieves? What if the ships are attacked by water thieves or land thieves? Or if the trade and commerce goods are destroyed by the land rats or water rats? So there could be all possibilities of a mishappening. And then on top of it, the pirates could also smuggle the goods. And then to top it all, the perils of waters. That means the storms. You never know the prediction. You can never predict beforehand what is there in store for the nature. The winds and rocks might break the ship. The storm could hit the ship. So he says, in spite of knowing all this, I'm a little worried. So 3,000 ducats, I think I may take his bond. May I speak with Antonio? So now he says, now since it's a matter of 3,000 ducats, so I think I should get a proper bond written for it. Though I know he's a good man, though I know he's full of riches, yet I should follow all procedures so that I am not at loss. So with this, he says, now may I talk to Antonio. So now comes Antonio. We stop here for today. Now, I would like to tell you there are more than 30 word meanings in this whole chapter. I would request each one of you to please make sure that you write all 30 of them. And then when we meet, not exactly when we meet for the next class, I will tell you the ones which might come in the exam. That means out of those only we will set up the paper for the exam. So we will shortlist the after discussing it with the other section English team, and then we'll shortlist the word meanings. But till then, in your copies, all these 30 plus word meanings should be there. So you can write heading of the chapter, writer's name, word meanings, and that's it. I hope I'm clear, but since nobody responded to me, I'm not liking. Okay, I hope I'm clear.